All right, guys, welcome in. We are back. It's 2025 Extra Reverb Podcast. We're starting off with a bang. I've got Justin Gonzalez, good friend of mine. His wife is like one of my wife's best friends, so we have an inherent friendship that way, of course. Um, so much to learn about Justin. A lot of things I want to get into. Get into the weeds. Justin, thanks for being here, man.
Man, super excited to be here. When you told me you were doing this, was honored to be a participant in this show. So
Yeah, of
excited to
course.
see you do your
Anybody
thing.
anybody that's got an interesting story and interesting stories to tell is who I want to talk to. So,
Right
um,
on.
so for people that don't, I know a little bit about you. I probably need to know more, but for the people that don't, can you give us a little background, who you are, where you come from, what, where you been, what you done?
Yeah, man. So born and raised in Miami, Florida, of Cuban descent, and like most Cuban fathers that have a child or a son, they want their son to be the next A-Rod. My dad was no different. So dedicated, gosh, the majority of my life now. I'm 33, and I'd say about 25 years of my life is dedicated to baseball. And that's kind of where my journey starts. Through baseball, I was able to meet my wife in college, got to play professionally for a little bit, which allowed me to travel around and live in cities that I would have never been to, which is pretty cool. But yeah, unfortunately, like most, that journey ended. Um, and yeah, just the rest of my life started. So happy to pick up wherever you'd like me.
So let's start from the
Yeah,
beginning here with,
yeah,
baseball. Like um I played sports too, a little
yeah.
different than baseball, but so the traveling, definitely understand all that. But so when you was baseball always did you play any other sports to start off, or was it just like bam, like you said, your dad was like, you're a baseball player?
Yeah, it was just baseball, and I remember a distinct conversation I had with him because I was really big into karate too. I thought it was going to be like the
Sweet.
Three Ninjas or something like that. But, he sat me down. He said, "Hey, you got to choose one. It's either baseball or karate." And I was like, "Well, I choose karate." And he's like, "No, you're playing baseball." And I think from that point forward, it was baseball. I tried to play other sports, but I always got hurt. So seemed to be kind of my path.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
Any major injuries that you got hurt? Like, what are you talking about?
No, I
Um,
just like jammed my fingers.
oh,
I'd play pickup, flag football or something like that, and I'd tweak a knee. And once I was unable to play a game because I did that, my dad was like, "Yeah, this you got to stop this.
yeah.
This is your meal ticket here." So
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot less room for that in baseball in terms of, there's just head injuries from getting hit by pitches and all that, but
yeah,
but
yeah.
you don't really feel like I don't feel like I honestly don't watch a whole lot of baseball outside the Rays, but it's you don't feel like blown ACLs or anything like that a whole lot, right?
No, I mean, definitely not early on. There's definitely like mismanagement of care or kids training
Sure.
with people who necessarily aren't really the most effective trainers, or they'll get into some accidents or something random. But I think when you get to a higher level, you're playing every day. It's just minor injuries that prevent you from playing. So
Yeah,
it's the grind, man. It's the grind. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So you went and then was FSU the first choice? What were your so when you played in high school, when did you start getting offers? When did you know like, okay, I can go to the next level of
yeah.
baseball?
So I actually got my first offer my sophomore year of high school,
Oh,
and it was to
sweet.
UPenn. But they took one look at my GPA and they said, "Hey, if you really want to make this happen, you got to bump up your scores." And I was like, "Well, definitely want to go to." My goal at the time was to go to the number one school in the nation. So, I think my junior year, LSU was the number one school in the nation, and then
Okay.
following year was like Vanderbilt. Was up there. FSU ended up being the University of Miami and FSU was 1 and 2 in the same year. They were back and forth. So
Yeah.
that was just my goal. And the only offers that I got were from Marshall, Elon, University of Manhattan. I had a soft offer from but being from Miami, I wanted to leave Miami.
Of course.
FSU was never really on the table. I was really shooting for Clemson, LSU, or Vanderbilt. Those were like my top three schools that I wanted to go to. Of course, every time they went to go see me play, I did terrible. They were like, yeah, we're not gonna, unfortunately, we're not gonna offer you anything. But ended up going to a showcase, played really well. The pitching coach at the time for FSU, Jamie Shoup, recruited me, and it just so happened that they were the #1 school in the nation at the time. So the stars
Damn.
aligned, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty
Manifested
cool.
that shit.
I guess so, man.
It's real. I swear to God, it's real.
Yeah.
Um, the so you were a pitcher then? Is that
No,
you?
man.
No.
Shortstop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think I remembered. I would remember.
One of the things that I mean, you just learned about me.
Yeah.
But
So and then you were at FSU. What year did you get there? You there before your wife, right? And then yeah, she's a little bit younger than us.
she is. Yeah, I got there 2000 fall of 2009.
Okay, same as me.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then I did a victory lap, so I was a 5th year. Then I had to redshirt, so I was there for almost 5.5 years.
Okay.
Feels like never happened now, but when I was going through it, it felt like I'd been there forever.
Yeah. So what go man, I got like what's up with FSU in the postseason? What happens? What's like because it's like they're always like I remember so many years where it was like so great, and then here comes College World Series time, and it's just like choke city. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's a thing,
what's
man.
the deal?
I don't know.
You got the inside scoop. What's the
Baseball is such a weird sport, and really the hottest teams going into playoffs usually are the ones that advance through the rounds. I don't necessarily think it's a matter of choking. I just think,
right, yeah,
it's not like football or any of these other major sports that the better team usually has a higher percentage of winning the game. We would go play games against teams that we should have obliterated, and we would end up losing 1-0,
right.
and have a hitless night. It's just the way it works out. And unfortunately, it just always seemed to happen in these pivotal moments. Crazy. It sucked. I had a chance to play twice in the College World Series, and same thing. You make it. You just kind of like the stage is there, the moment's there, and you just kind of just slips through your fingertips like water. So
yeah, it's just
can't really give you a good answer there, man. It just happens.
It just happens over and it just like if it happens once, okay, but it's like they've like what was it like 11 times or something that they've gotten there like in the past, not when you were there obviously, but like it was like 11 appearances and they never got to the final like something something crazy like that.
I don't know the exact number, but I think it's more. And I think the statistic was we were the team to have gone the most during the era of 11, Mike Martin, rest in peace, to never win it. And if you think of the teams before us, like these crazy athletes that had these amazing MLB careers, even they couldn't crack the code. So I don't know, man. Hopefully the curse gets lifted soon.
It's so weird. Then transversely, like apparently softball was just like crushing it and winning national championships. And I didn't even know until I walked into Tully and saw the trophy one time. I'm like, wait, when was that? Oh, that was this year? Oh my God.
And soccer, and thankfully we were there to witness, a football championship, which was amazing.
Yes, we were.
Baseball and basketball, we just got to step it up, I guess.
It's just crazy. Basketball's on a crazy cycle. It's like they're good every 4 years. Once every 4 years, they're like on this cycle of just like everybody leaves at the same time. They have to get a whole new team, and then everybody leaves again. And they're like good. Once everybody's a senior, they crush it, and then they suck again. It's just they're on that. I don't know what it is. Maybe that'll change, but it's weird. And then same thing with the sand volleyball. I mean, they crushed it. Unfortunately, like how do you compete, like UCLA or something where they live on the beach?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to get into that, I'm sure Nina and Mallory can give you.
I've heard it.
Their reasons why that happens.
You've heard it. I've heard it. It's like unbelievable. So then after FSU, was it like always like I'm gonna play pro, or was that always just like something that was like I want maybe if it happens, it happens?
No, I mean that was always the goal. I think if we would have had this conversation, gosh, almost 9 years ago now, you would have told me like, hey, you're going to be a sales rep now. I would have laughed in your face. I'm like, no, I'm going to play baseball. So I did get drafted. I got drafted 3 times actually. I got drafted out of high school by the Astros. Decided to go to college. Got drafted my junior year by the Dodgers. Decided to come back for my senior year. Had hip surgery my senior year, so I had to redshirt, and I came back for the 5th year, and I got picked up by the Diamondbacks. And I did get to go play. What they shipped me out to short season, which was out in Hillsboro, Oregon.
Uh-huh.
So played the short season there, which ended like right around October. We ended up winning the Northwest League Championship. It was like this great thing.
Oh, nice.
Go out to spring training. I'm bouncing around with the working group. I was able to play with the AAA team for a few games, and then I walked into my locker one day, and all my stuff was cleared out, and they put me in a room and said, "Hey, here's a plane ticket. Best of luck," and that was it. So,
Plane ticket back to like Miami.
yeah, just back home.
Jeez, brutal.
Brutal. It's weird, man. It was my first reaction to that was almost relief. I had been on this hamster wheel for 20 plus years of my life, and it was finally an opportunity to kind of see what else life had to offer.
Yeah.
Of course, that lasted for about 2 days, and then I went through like a full identity crisis that most athletes go through, just to
Yep.
like, who the hell am I without my life in a season? So yeah, it's been a
Seriously,
long journey.
that's the thing, man. Like when I was done with tennis, it was like, you know, dude, what am I gonna do? What am I
Yeah,
doing? So Marine Corps,
yeah, man.
okay, here we go. This is something. And then it's like, but then it's like, really, you're just after that, it's just like you're searching. You're like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm not training for anything. Like, I didn't even I stopped working out and everything else after that for like a couple of years and was just like, I don't know
What's the point?
what yeah, what's the fucking point? Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
definitely a weird thing when you do it like your entire life to
yeah.
just be like, it's done.
I mean,
Um,
I still miss it. I don't miss the grind or the bus rides, especially in pro ball. They're miserable, but you know, the team having a common goal, um, having an opponent. And I feel like when you get into real life outside of sports, you don't really know who your opponent is. You're just kind of competing
yeah,
against yourself, which is like hard to measure sometimes. But um, yeah, I think, but through that, I was able to, Nina and I were able to get married. We had our daughter. A lot of positive things stem from that. So, no complaints here, man.
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm a big believer of it's all happening
Yeah,
exactly how it should, and no matter what we think it should be.
yeah,
Um, it'd be nice if it worked out how I guess for some people it does, but
yeah, exactly.
it's so I imagine for team sports it's different too because at least with tennis it's pretty lonely the whole time anyway.
Yeah,
You're because you really are. I mean, you're competing against other people, but largely you're competing against yourself anyway.
yeah,
So that transition is not the same. But with team, it's like you got the camaraderie around it. You've got everybody pushing each other and the whole thing. And baseball is unique that way too, I guess. It's like the only one where there's like, I mean, tennis too, but in team sports where you're working your way, like NFL, like, okay, you sign your contract, you're here, you're on the practice squad, like you're doing, it's not like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but the plug gets pulled a lot quicker. I feel like with baseball players that I talk to, and it's a bitch. It's a bitch. So then after that, you guys went to you guys went to Chicago, right? Is that where you ended up for work? Or
yeah. So after that, actually, Nina had one more year left of school. So I actually went back home to Miami. I got a job at ESPN, which I thought was going to be an amazing transition. It's like, wow,
yeah,
how how sweet is
I
that?
didn't know that.
You
That's
go from
cool.
playing baseball, and now I could work at ESPN out of their Miami office. And I'll never forget, man. Like, I walked into the office for an interview, and I almost walked right out. I was like, this is not me. I need to go back and play. Like, I can't see my life in a cubicle. But I stayed. I did the interview. I got the job. And then once Nina graduated, she got a really good job in Chicago at Pfizer.
Okay.
And then I was working with ESPN. I said, hey, like, can I transfer out to the Chicago office, work there till we get our feet under us, and then we'll go figure it out from there. And then we did that. And then I eventually just ended up at Pfizer and then back here in Florida with a different company. So,
So she hooked you up with that job. What a transition.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I owe a lot to my wife.
What were you guys doing there? I thought because Mal was telling me it was like medical device sale type thing, or what was that?
Yeah. So my time at Pfizer, we were in sales, and we were in their division called the sterile injectable division, and we weren't pushing pills or anything like that. But anything that was medically necessary that you would find in an ER, God forbid you found yourself in an ER, all that medication that they would use to save your life, that's what we were selling to the hospital. So it was in hospital sales and kind of that vertical or that portfolio for Pfizer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what years was that you were there?
Man, I was there from 2017 to 2022. So a little over 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 years
Jeez,
and a couple
I can't
months.
believe it was that long. It didn't seem like that long.
Hey, it went by like this.
I know, it's
Yeah.
crazy. So what a great little segue into a topic I really wanted to broach. Uh, what was so at Pfizer, like, what was it like in terms of pre-COVID, and then COVID starts happening? Was there like what was it? Was there a noticeable shift in the workplace, in the mission, in the goal? Like, what was going on there? Because I know that they knew about the COVID stuff before 2020 when it became like big. I know it was happening. Were they already like preparing and prepping for this thing to happen? Like they were aware of it beforehand, before it went huge public worldwide?
I mean,
That you
one
know?
would assume that I can confirm no. I mean, at the end of the day, like we were just sales reps, and we were in the field, so we were never at corporate.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I, those decisions and that information is way above my pay grade. But to answer your first question, I think there was just a noticeable shift in the world. Like,
Of course.
and it was easily seen in corporate America, especially like working at a company like Pfizer, where it was like in the news almost every day and in your face. And, there was a line drawn in the sand. And I think everyone kind of took a side, and
100%.
it became very polarized for the next year and a half, 2 years, even sometimes today. Like it still pops
Oh,
up.
there's no middle ground anymore.
No,
There's no like, oh, I'm in the middle. It's you're one way or the other now.
exactly. Yeah. It's weird. I never realized the dynamic of corporate America until something like that happened. It's almost like there was my life pre-COVID, like I was asleep, and then something like that happens, and you just become awake, and you kind of
So many people.
yeah.
You know,
So
like so many people.
yeah,
Beforehand, like, yeah. I always was a fan of like conspiracy theories, which
yeah,
now a conspiracy theory is the truth.
yeah,
But
exactly.
before it was like, oh, it's wild. It's so out there. And I was like, you always talk to your friends, like, I'm like, there's puppet masters behind the scenes and this and that. And it's cool to talk. It's fun to think about, but you don't really deep down, you're like, I don't know if that's the way it is.
Yeah,
But now it's like, that is the way it is. And it's great that it's getting exposed, in my opinion. And it's pretty validating when
yeah,
you called crazy for, I'm sure you get, like, I've been called crazy for years. I was talking to Mal about this. Like, I'm like, you don't know how exciting it is for people to think you're a loony bird for all these fucking years and since COVID. And now all of a sudden, like January 6th shit's coming out. And you're like, I saw that shit it was on Tucker Carlson put it out. Like
yeah.
the day, like the week after January 6th, he's showing the tapes of inside the Capitol. And he's like, I'm like,
And they're being escorted throughout.
yeah. And
It's
I'm
almost
like,
like a
what the
private
fuck?
viewing. Yeah, it's
I'm like,
crazy.
what the fuck? This is not, why are people even worried, like freaking out about this? And now they're comparing it to freaking Pearl Harbor and Holocaust. And I'm like, they're literally like getting chauffeured around and like tour guided through this place. Like, what are you
Yeah,
talking about? And people ask, how do you feel about that? I'm just like, it doesn't affect me at all. It's stupid. They're like,
yeah,
like, what's wrong with you? It was the worst day in America ever. And it's just like, it's so validating. Like I want to get up and do a dance when the stuff comes out, and they just have to like look in the mirror and eat shit. Like how like you bought it, you
yeah.
bought it.
I mean, I think there's just many scenarios even before that just people bought a bag of goods, and
Yeah,
um, the critical thinking went out the window. I mean, even the ability to ask a question. You ask a question, you're considered a domestic terrorist. It's nuts. And I'm hoping that these next 4 years they bring a lot of light. I think I was listening to someone else talk, and they were saying that really the only difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is just a few weeks, a month, 2 months.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
But yeah, I mean, definitely being around a generation of people that believed everything that their doctor told them, or believed everything that the news told them to believe, and took that as truth.
Yeah.
I think there's been a more, within our generation and even younger. Yeah, people are starting to wake up and realize, like, hey, I mean, we've outsourced so much, and we've become so accustomed to not really like doing our own research. Yeah, and I laugh saying that because like doing your own research is just going on Google sometimes, or if you got access to DuckDuckGo or something.
You got to
like,
go on DuckDuckGo, man.
Yeah. But you're right, man. It is a pretty cool feeling, almost as good as like when you're under the lights playing a game against UF or something like that. To when like one of your conspiracy theories that everyone thinks you're crazy for comes true. It's like, oh sweet, like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude, like 9/11 was like, for me, like obviously huge for everybody, but it changed the world. But it's like, for me, that was like such a huge shift for me, like wanting to join the military
Yeah.
and serve my country. And it really showed me how much I love the United States of America.
Yeah.
Like I have a deep passion for our country. And it's like, that was such a thing. And now I'm like looking at it like, did we do that to ourselves? Like, I don't know. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it was it a demolition job? And it's how does a plane melt steel and cause a building to perfectly collapse down into itself? And there's people missing in the rubble for weeks, but we found the terrorist passports like almost perfectly preserved. And
Yeah.
they had of course they had those, on them, and it's got their real identities and everything else. And they're perfect. Here they are, perfect, just like the Cybertruck guy this last week. It's like the car's obliterated, a gun that melted a gun, but his military ID, which I can tell you from experience is a piece of shit, survived. It looks like somebody took a lighter to it, and you're like, give me a fucking break.
But it begs the question, man. It's like you have to ask these questions, and
I
you
hope
realize that there's. I mean, look, I've gone down that rabbit hole myself. I have my own.
What do you think?
I mean, man, I don't know. I think we'll ever know? No, I don't know if we'll ever know the truth. But there is a lot of weird things that happen. Like there was an insurance policy taken out on both buildings to like against an airplane crashing into them, and then all of a sudden, you have an airplane crashing into the Pentagon. Considered to be the most secured building, but we have like just one footage. One video that
like
shows us
perfectly level with the ground, like going.
I don't know. And then there was something at the time too that was going on with the debt ceiling, or there was a bunch of money that was missing, and then it just so happened that the plane happened to crash into that specific wing. I don't know, man. Either way,
like, it can't be a coincidence,
No, it sucks that it comes at the expense of any life, U.S. citizen or not. But I don't take things at face value anymore. I don't think anybody should. I think you should question everything.
Every single thing. If you don't, you're just like, but I think that's an interesting, for us, like being millennials, I think it's an interesting thing because we're like the only generation that experienced kind of like the only information you can get was the news.
Yeah.
And you had to take it on faith. You had to take it for what it was. And that was all you could get. And the shift to now, that is the last place I want to get information.
Yeah. We go to Instagram.
Yeah, literally anywhere but
or
there.
Twitter or X. Sorry.
Yeah. X especially these days, but
yeah, or QAnon if that's your jam.
Yeah, there you go. That's that one. That's a psyop for sure. That's deep state psyop. That's shit. But no, what do you think about that? Like, because the generation of especially like even this last election, I feel like the generation of, there's such a small population, but the boomers and the older folks, they're still watching the news and they're still all bought in. Like that is the gospel. And then, the younger, I think that's where Trump really excelled, is that younger group isn't listening to that at all. And he or his son knew that and said, hey, you need to go and get into these mediums because the news isn't it. You're trying to appeal to the group that already has their mind made up,
Yeah.
and they're blue no matter what, or they're
Yeah.
red no matter what. And this group over here is just wants to hear the truth, and we're kind of in the middle of that. What do you? I mean, do
I
you
mean, I
think
agree with
that's
that.
a factor?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think everything that's happened over the last 4 years has been by design. Um, it's crazy to think that even the 2020 election is such a polarizing topic.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I'll come out and say it. I mean,
that was a
everything
sham.
that, yeah, I mean, everything that was presented like leads me to believe that, Trump actually did win the election. And maybe it was intended to be that way. I think people needed to wake up. And the last 4 years proves nothing that our lives under a Trump administration were a lot better than the
100%.
last 4 years. So regardless of what medium everyone gets their news sources, I do think that people have woken up to some degree. I mean, if you just something as simple as putting out like where these stimulus packages, like what's included in these stimulus packages and where all of our taxpayer
Seriously.
money is going to, it's nuts, man. It's crazy. Like no one had that level of transparency, during our parents' time when they were watching the news. They just said, hey,
Right.
like Congress, signed a bill in the wee hours of the night and you're getting $1,200. Congrats. See
They're
you later.
like,
Move on with your life. Yeah, amazing, right? Um,
yeah, man.
so I don't know, man. I think there's just still like some work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I believe it happens at the local level. Having these conversations like you and I are having, and it's okay to disagree. Like I don't claim to know everything, but I am open minded enough to say, hey, like this is what I think. What do you believe? Help me understand that. And I think we're getting back to that. But
Sure.
for about 4 or 5 years, you can't have that discussion. We were living in Chicago and we lost friends, just because of our stance on the
Oh
COVID
yeah,
vaccine. So I've been called crazy too.
I believe in you
I've been
there.
there.
So back to that actually. So when you
Yeah.
were working there, you were selling. Was there once COVID happened? Was there a push for you guys to sell the vaccine, like really push this thing?
So not our vertical. We do at Pfizer. There was a vaccines vertical, and
Mhm.
they do actively sell, to my knowledge, the COVID vaccine. But
Okay.
primarily, we were. I wasn't there long. I was let go transparently about so in December of 2022, I was let go by
Okay.
Pfizer. I was part of a downsize. Now, coincidentally, it'll never be admitted, but I knew of maybe 5 other reps in my vertical that were not vaccinated, and I think all 5 of them were let go.
Interesting.
But we were like 5 out of like I think 30 or I can't remember the exact number. So
And downsizing was there.
yeah,
There.
but most companies, that's a common thing, especially in pharmaceuticals. There's
Yeah.
there's layoffs every year. So
I need to look that up
yeah,
though, because it had to be like one of their most lucrative times ever.
yeah,
And they're
or leading up to it,
downsizing.
leading up to it at least. It's a public company. They're trying to increase their profit margins for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and it's just the way it goes. But
Interesting.
um,
So was there anything internally, like were you, if they hadn't have let you go, were you thinking about leave? Was there anything internally that was like prompting you to be like to leave?
no, I
Or
mean, so nothing like from a culture perspective. Um, there was a shift in the vaccine schedules and mandates for us to be able to enter hospitals, and COVID was included on that. And obviously, like I was very adamant that that was not something that I was going to be doing.
yeah,
So I kind of saw the writing on the wall, like how can I do my job if I can't go into the hospital and meet with the clients that we were supporting. So I had started interviewing before all that, preemptively, just preparing that if I was part of the downsides, like I had a backup plan, and thankfully it ended up working out that way. But nothing to the point where I could say, hey, like I'm a whistleblower and this is what happens. No, they're very smart. It's
sure.
yeah, it's kind of is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was just wondering if you had any, conversations with people that, because obviously, was it a mandated thing that obviously it wasn't?
So it wasn't at the beginning, And then I remember there were a lot of press releases that were coming out and a lot of hesitancy around it because it wasn't being mandated. And that was just like on the news. That wasn't necessarily like something that was an internal discussion. And coincidentally, about a month and a half after those stories were breaking and people were getting like, raising some eyebrows at the, efficacy of the vaccine and if it was safe and all that stuff, then it was mandated. So I had to go through the whole process, submitted my religious exemption. It was accepted. Had some eyebrows internally.
Kind of surprising.
Yeah, surprising, but they did accommodate for that, which I was thankful for. But just like people talking, it's almost like once people find out like, hey, this Justin's not vaccinated, it's like you become like you get the scarlet A. Like no one, like they start to distance yourself from that. But that was happening in everyday life in Chicago, so it wasn't like nothing that was earth shattering for us.
Isn't that crazy? That like, because before, like, why this vaccine? Like, it's a new thing. Like, if someone didn't get some other vaccine, like it would have been like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I
know a lot of people were negatively affected by COVID, so I don't want to discount it and say like it was, a sham or
no. I mean, anything, obviously people died, but not as many because of.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. But to me, what was more mind blowing was when Joe Rogan had those two doctors on his show, and obviously these are very intelligent individuals, considered doctors, went through the same medical accreditation that any doctor would, maybe a little bit more extensive based off their expertise. And they were being called lunatics or conspiracy theorists. And like, I think one of them was almost threatened to have his medical practice license revoked.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And, I was talking to my wife about this and I was like, hey, this seems odd. Like these people are obviously doctors. They know the research. I think one of them like was patented the mRNA technology, and the media is just destroying him. Or even when Joe Rogan talked about the ivermectin and how he took it, how they tried to make him look like he was a certain way and deathly sick because he did ivermectin. Like, it was just weird, man. It was just a weird time. So
yeah, well, it's just so much money, and that's what it boils down to with all of it. But also, I heard a thing. I was reading about like these vaccines, not just the COVID vaccine, but a lot of the other ones too, like that they're trying to push. They're not even really testing these things because of there's no accountability with regulation, and like they're talking about like something like 3 days with no control group. I was reading their test 3 days. Like I'm not a doctor, but it's like I would at least want like a few weeks to see. And science 101, everybody that went to elementary school, you have to have a control group or what's the point?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about this next administration is the work that RFK is going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because up until really COVID, natural immunity was a thing, right? But COVID happens and it's like, no, like your natural immunity is not a thing. And I think we had COVID. I never tested for it, but I'm pretty sure, I had COVID or the flu or something like that. And I got over it in 5 days. And I think anytime there's a recommendation for a blanket treatment without any sort of, hey, let's take a peek under the hood. Let's see like what your blood type or like, what are you allergic to? Or having a conversation about the ingredients, like, hey, this is the level of toxicity that you're going to be injecting to your body. Does it outweigh the risk? Like, what's the benefit of this? But the moment you start asking those questions to doctors, they just get pretty defensive, man. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, they can lose their job, right?
Yeah.
They lose. Well, so, honestly, that's how they make their money, unfortunately. And so it's just like, if I can't get you on a pill or I can't give you a surgery, then I'm not going to be able to, I can't build the insurance, and then they're going to drop me, and then I got to close my office and I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
It's so backwards.
It's definitely a lucrative industry. And unfortunately, people don't make money off healthy people.
Yeah.
They make it's almost like it's sick care, not health care.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a time and place for it, right? If you're on your deathbed and you need life-saving medication, I do think, hey, like, all right, there's this essential oil is not going to fix this. Like, we need like real medication.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's gotten such a bad rap, I think, and I'm hoping that these conversations become normalized in the medical community. And I think RFK, if he's able to do half the things that he says he's going to do, I think we'll be in a much better place in like 2 years, hopefully.
That's one of the most, like you said already, that's one of the most exciting things about the incoming administration is him for me. Like,
Yeah.
I told people I am, I huge Donald Trump supporter. I'm not afraid to say
Same.
it. Never have
Same.
been. And back in 2016, people are like, "What? You're nuts." But I was just like, "You watch." I'm like, "He's gonna win." I was like saying it. You watch, like, because at that time I was on the ground. I was, for a little bit doing insurance, and I'm in people's houses and talking to them, and it always come up like, and then but everybody I talk to, again, it's Florida, but
Yeah.
we're voting for Trump. This is 2016.
Yeah.
And it was like, people were telling me, like, it's going to be him. I'm not, they're just not, these polls are BS and this kind of stuff. Like, people, the silent majority is here, and you watch. And it's funny that if they'd have just let him win last time, he'd be over and they'd be done with him. And none of this stuff would be coming out. None of it would be happening. It would have been a lot easier. Now they're just kind of putting their
That's what I'm saying, man. Everything happens for a reason now. I mean, hopefully we have the majority that we need to kind of just start executing, some of these policies that I think are going to get us back as a country in a better state. But my great awakening, I mean, I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump every election. And quite frankly, I never voted up until the 2016 election. And
oh, really?
Truthfully, I just didn't think, I was still focused on baseball and I was just in my own little world, that I didn't think any of these policies impacted me. And then when I got out of that and I started to pay attention a little bit, like not nowhere to the degree that I pay attention to now, I just remember watching the debates and thinking like, man, this guy is not a politician. He's a billionaire, and he can somehow relate to private citizens like us who hopefully will know what it's like to be a billionaire. Maybe that's in the cards for us. But it was the debate with Hillary Clinton where he's lurking in the background, and she made the comment of like, God, heaven forbid that someone with the likes of Donald Trump would be in charge of the law in our country. And he said, yeah, because you'd be in jail. That was it for me. I was like, holy cow, this guy's back. That was
Dude,
it.
the guy is so funny. Like, I don't understand like how people are like the TDS, man. Like, it's real. Like, I don't understand. Like, just he's a character. Like, he's never been any different in my experience from what I've seen, like through all the years, from The Apprentice and all stuff. He's the same guy. And he's just, he doesn't have the ability to not just be that person. And it's I just don't know how you don't like him for that reason. Like, I can understand, like, okay, he says these crazy things and it's probably like a little offensive to people and all this stuff, but it's hilarious. The guy's fucking hilarious.
You got to have a sense of humor, man. I don't trust anybody that doesn't have a sense of humor. So
right, exactly, and you can't, man. It's all these blue hairs. That it's just like, which is fine for me. That's the thing is on the when we're talking about, like, we're having a conversation, and if you disagreed with everything I said, it would be okay with me.
Yeah,
and it would be totally fine. But with them, it's like, you cannot disagree. You can't do this or you're evil. And it's just like, look, I don't, and even on their side, like, hear me out. I don't care if you want to dress up like a woman as a man, and you want to dress up like a woman and pretend, do all that stuff, or take hormone block. If that's what you want to do, I do not care. I don't care. Just don't force me to have to like it. Like, personally, like, I have to like it. Like, if that's what you want to do, fine. I don't think do I think it's weird? Absolutely. But I don't, that's your thing. Whatever. I'm weird in some ways, like, it's okay.
Yeah, I think
everybody's weird.
I agree. I can really care less. If people want to live their lives the way they want to live them, I don't care. And if you're happy about it, man, more power to you.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there living a life that they're not happy about, and that's their prerogative. And there's people out there who may be living a little differently than we would expect. And hey, they're happy as can be. So good for you. But I agree with you. There's no need to like shove it down my throat or get mad at me if I have a difference of opinion. I'm going to show love regardless. And that's what this is all about. And I'm hoping that this go around, it'll be that. I'm very, very curious to see what the history books have to say when our daughters are like in high school about
Right.
these 5 years that we've experienced. It's nuts.
It'll be very interesting if it's like this unabashed like bunch of lies and government corruption, or if it's like, you know, Christopher Columbus just rolled up into America and we celebrate Thanksgiving because
Together.
we all love each other.
Yeah. It's crazy. Are you going to be that parent that goes to the parent teacher conferences and maybe has like a little bit of a debate on
Oh
these
no, man.
topics? Or okay,
No. Mallory would never allow me to do that. She'd be like, you can't like, yeah, I would totally do it, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna be that parent. Like I like to be with that. I'm a hands off kind of parent. Like I'm gonna be there for my kids and what they need me to be.
yeah,
But whatever they want to do, whatever they want to believe, I'll just support it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
That's
if they
awesome.
turn out like, you know, if they want to be whatever, you know, if they want to be
Yeah,
gay, fine, whatever. That's your thing. I love
yeah,
you.
yeah,
You know, go be the best gay you can be. Like, you know, but
yeah,
that's a terrible example, but I have no problem with the, but what I'm saying is this, I have no problem with any walk of life. I really don't. I have no problem with it. But it's just, I don't want to be forced into, because if, as soon as I say like, let's, Justin, how many straight pride parades have you seen?
seen
Yeah,
zero.
how many straight pride parades are there that we can be like, I'm straight and proud and it's great and I'm gonna march down the street? That'd
Yeah,
literally be like you'd be called a devil worshiper or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
you know? And it's just like, why? What's the difference?
yeah. I think the power of social media, it made these things very polarized because it's in your face, it's at your fingertips, and like with the algorithms, you click into one thing, next thing you know, you're being targeted, and this is all you see. Um, will that change? Who knows, man? I think with technology, I think things are maybe going to get worse.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
Oh,
optimistic here, but I can't imagine growing up in high school with the power of a smartphone in my pocket.
no way. We
My
had the
ideology
Nokia
would be
flip
so
phone,
so skewed. Yeah, yeah. I got a Nokia just so I could play Snake. Like, yeah,
man.
yeah. It's
Oh,
I I fear the life, that kids have to live these days, and like even in the future with all this technology and like this need for constant validation because
yeah,
of
man.
what they have access to. It's crazy. Um, I believe in free speech. I believe in all that stuff. Would I love to see some sort of regulation to block out all the things that I disagree with? Absolutely, but of course that's not free speech. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes, unfortunately, you just got to be. I think you got to be an involved parent, man. Like you said.
Yeah.
So
But look, that's the thing about it though, is like I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. You can say it. I
yeah,
don't, that's fine. That's your,
no,
you are just as entitled to say what you want to say as I'm entitled to say what I want to say.
that's
And
right.
that's fine. We don't have to, but that's what makes America beautiful. And that's why I love it, is because like we can have all these differences of opinion.
Yeah,
And I would put my life on the line for you to disagree with me, to have the ability to disagree with me.
yeah. I mean, you fought for that freedom, man.
You
So
know, it's just like, it's just crazy that people don't see that, and it's just but I think you're right though. I think we're getting back to that. And but yeah, the technology in the schools, it's crazy. Do you see this like AI? I can't even imagine going to college with AI, man. Could you
oh
imagine like
man, no.
how much time we would have saved?
Yeah, I mean, how much other dumb stuff we would have gotten into because of how much time we had on our hands.
Right,
I don't even want to
just
think
like, hey,
about
I
it.
need a paper about this, like
Yeah,
done.
done.
You know, like how do they even know?
Yeah,
Because you can't. I saw a thing right now. There's a kid that they're accusing. They were trying to kick him out of school or whatever because he was super smart and he wrote some paper and they said it was AI and he's denying it. And they're having this fight like he's like, nope, it was me.
you got to believe that there's some sort of counter software that people can detect. I mean,
You would think.
there's got to be. There's no way. I mean, even then, I think you could have gone away with that early on when ChatGPT first became public, but now I think universities and even businesses are cracking down because
Yeah.
there's a security risk, man. It's maybe AI has always existed and it's just now becoming public. There's that
Yeah,
thought too. Um,
could be.
I don't know. It's then you start like you rewatch The Matrix a few times. You're like, oh snap, we're headed that way. If we're not living in it already, we're headed that way for sure.
Yeah, we're already in that, you know.
Yeah.
I think we're headed into the part of the Matrix that's the Terminator.
Oh, dude.
Did you see that shit where Chat GPT was lying? You read
No.
that?
Mm-mm.
I'll have to send you that article.
Yeah.
So they were, because they're getting ready to put out the newer version, right? Chat 4.5 or whatever it is. They're talking
Yeah.
about 5, and Chat GPT discovered through its own search that they were planning on shutting it down. So it started lying to them, to the developers, and it started making moves to in self-preservation so it couldn't get shut down. They were saying that it was putting its own goals ahead of what they had told it to do.
Oh, dude, you're gonna have to send that to me, man. That's
It's
wild.
wild, like to the point of it created fake code over here to make it seem like it was here while it was moving its actual code to other servers because it found out that it was going to be shut down so that it could survive.
That is crazy.
How
That is
nuts
crazy.
is that? That
That's
was the
nuts.
first time AI scared me, to be honest, because I'm a big fan and I think it's huge.
Yeah.
But I was always thinking like, okay, it's AI, like it's not this thing that feels and thinks, but it's just like it can compile information faster than we can and analyze it and spit
Yeah.
out what I need, right?
Yeah.
That's always what I thought. But
Yeah.
apparently, this thing's got a freaking brain, and like if it can do that, think about it, man. Like
I mean, I don't want to think about it. That's kind of scary, man.
like it's lying to them, telling them it did things it didn't, and like
You're gonna have to send that to me
yeah.
because yeah, it definitely has made my life a little easier. It's nice having. I mean, I grew up in the dial-up days. Like the weird noise trying to
Oh
connect to
yeah, AOL,
AOL.
bro.
Yeah, so I mean, even the internet that we have now is unreal.
Hold
But
on,
to
I'm
have
gonna
something, and
I'm gonna send that over to you right now, actually, before I forget. But yeah, I was read that, and then I was talking to somebody else about it, and then the Google came out with that Willow chip for the quantum computing.
okay,
And did you hear about that?
man, no, I didn't.
I'm so deep in the
Um,
weeds on all this
I,
stuff.
I was gonna say I'm gonna have to get on the same wavelength as you on this stuff because I'm kind of like of the mindset now. It's like, all right, I kind of know what I know. I know what I believe, and now, I'm just trying to survive what my day to day. So I don't have like the bandwidth to like jump in a rabbit hole and like not talk to my wife for a month and a half, which was happening pretty regularly during COVID.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I have some more downtime now that we're back in a routine. So send it my way, man. It'd be good.
dude, I'm like, I don't know. I've always got like this secondary talk about bandwidth. Like I've got what I'm doing, but then I've always got something going on in the background, something going like, and it's just always constantly absorbing things and trying
Yeah,
to. And I don't know, it's an
dude.
addiction a little bit.
I mean, that's awesome, man. You do have a lot going on. You got the podcast, you got your real estate stuff going on, you got the music, and I'm sure other things that I don't know about, but
Yeah,
that's a great skill to have, man.
So back to you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the back to you, the Willow chip thing with quantum. People look at that because it basically they were saying that so with the quantum computing, it's so a developer was explaining it to me, and normal computing systems have like an on and off function, and that's how
Okay.
the circuit works, right? The quantum computing is constantly on, so there was always it could always do things extremely fast,
Mhm.
like solve complex problems extremely fast, but there was always a huge margin of error because it didn't have the on off for whatever reason. I don't know the details of that. But the quantum chip this Willow chip gets rid of that error. It like fixed that margin of error. So we're talking about they were saying, I sent it to you. They're saying that if the entire universe was converted into computing power, okay, that's what like basically there was not for how fast this computer can now figure out problems. There's not enough computing power in this universe for it to be working as fast as it is. So they're concluding that it's drawing more power from alternate universes. So it's basically confirming the existence of a multiverse to these scientists because there's not enough computing power in our known universe. Because they were saying it was like 10 septillion years it would take a normal computer to figure something out, and this willow chip thing's figuring it out in 5 minutes.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I just saw the article come through. That's wild to think. I mean,
Right.
maybe. Hey, listen, man. Maybe in this alternate universe that it's pulling power from, I was in the major leagues. You're a tennis star playing overseas. Like,
Yeah. You know,
you never know. Yeah, you
I
never
think
know.
I saw that somewhere where there's like mathematically, just in our universe, like somewhere out in our universe, it's mathematically higher. There's a more likelihood that there's a Justin Gonzalez doing exactly what you're doing somewhere else in our universe than not. The probability is higher that it's happening, like an identical life to yours is happening right now somewhere else in the universe. And same with me. It's pretty wild to think
That's wild. Probably somewhere on the other side of Antarctica.
about. Right? What's going on in Antarctica? What's going on? What do you
I don't
know?
know, man.
What's
You tell
Pfizer
me. I
doing in
don't.
Antarctica?
Oh, dude, I can't help you there. I have no idea. Um, I'd like to think that, traditional history, we were lied to, and there's more out there. Or maybe we just explored the entire Earth, and that's it. All we got to do is go down below in the sea. If we haven't done that already. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just conspiracy stuff. Same stuff that you hear, I'm sure.
Dude, the ocean's crazy. I think that's like the area that's like we have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on down
No,
there.
no, it's nuts, man. It's
It's
nuts.
so big, and like you can't get down there. You just
It
have ability.
scares me, dude. That the ocean stuff, that's scary stuff, man. Like I've always had a healthy fear of the ocean. Um, and
Oh yeah.
then yeah, yeah. I think my first rated R movie. I don't even know if it was rated R, but I went and saw Deep Blue Sea as a kid, and I just became deathly. I remember jumping in my swimming pool, just kind of looking around, just making sure like, hey, I'm good here. But yeah, the ocean's pretty trippy for sure.
Yeah. So I want to backtrack a little bit to the
Yeah,
RFK and all the exciting things he's doing with food
yeah.
and what have you and all that. And I know that you're very, I think I know that you're very strict with what you put in your body and your food and all that. Was that something
Yeah.
have you always done that, or was this something like I don't know, post COVID awakening type of thing? Like tell me more about
Um,
it, 'cause I'm interested in that.
yeah, man. I mean, this has been a journey, just like everything else. Definitely didn't care what I ate in college or when I was playing sports. I think if I would have been more mindful in what I put in my body, I think I would have had, better success on the field or at least staying
Mm.
healthy. But it actually stemmed from I was pre-COVID. We were living in Chicago, and I just had a really hard time sleeping and focusing. Um, and during this time, I was of the mindset it's like, all right, I need to go see a doctor. Maybe they'll prescribe me something that'll help me sleep. So did that. None of it was working. And I'll never forget, I met this girl. She came and stayed with us in Chicago. And, we took her out to eat, and I noticed that she wasn't eating. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, do you not like this food? And she's like, no, I just, I have to be very careful what I eat. I'm trying to stay away from foods that cause high inflammation. And I was like, I've never heard of this before. Like, tell me more about it. So she introduced me to this guy named Max Lugavere. Um, he was an independent journalist at the time, and I think the way his story goes, is in his family, his mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia, and I was really fascinated by what he was talking about and how food affects, and passes through the blood-brain barrier and affects like gut health, and how gut health,
Yeah,
really impacts everything. And
sure.
so he had a podcast. I would listen to his podcast every day to work, and he would have all these, guests on his show that way smarter than I am. But I was like, all right, these people clearly know what they're talking about. And so I decided to try it. I decided to say, all right, I'm just going to do whatever they recommend. So he put out this book. I think it's called the Genius Foods, and
Okay.
it's really centered around 11 foods that like for brain health that you should be focused. So that was the intent of this. Um, and so I started, and at the time I was weighing 235 pounds. My heaviest was,
That's
yeah, that was
heavy for you. Yeah.
that was the heaviest I've ever been. My waist size was like a 36, 37.
Hey, hey.
Um, and man, I cut out. It was more less of what I was eating and more what I was not eating. And so it was really centered around, hey, if you're gonna have oil, have extra virgin olive oil, cook your food in butter, coconut oil, eliminate all processed foods, get rid of wheat, get rid of like pasta, bread, rice, and then I just focused on eating basically veggies and fruits and whole foods, basically. And within 2 months, not only was I sleeping better, I was feeling better. I didn't have the aches and pains that I normally had. I was stronger. And I went from 230 or 235, whatever it was, all the way down to 192
Wow.
within 2 months. I went from a size 36, on my waist to like a 29. Now, you asked Nina this, and she say you were way too thin. Like obviously, like I went too extreme, and so I found like a good balance of increasing the amount of calories I was eating with the same foods, and then also giving myself one day of just enjoyment. Like, pizza Fridays are a thing that's been a tradition in our family since I could remember. And so Fridays are my day to, hey, I'm going to indulge a little bit and have good just to make this more sustainable. But yeah, man, that's kind of how it started and how I got to where I am today.
You didn't need Ozempic. Interesting.
No, I didn't. That's crazy. I know it's necessary for some folks, but for the folks that really just need to like make time, because it is an effort. It's an extra effort that you have to do, but you end up saving more money, you end up feeling better, and if you can do it for a couple of weeks, it just becomes part of your normal routine, man. And I'm a huge advocate for it. It changed my life. So yeah.
No, I that's why I was interested. I know, you wouldn't even eat my my pulled pork that I smoked for 12 hours when you came over.
Smelled good though.
Well, like, come on. So I mean, like, what's the deal with meat? You don't want to eat meat? Like,
no, so it just so happened that day I was fasting. So
okay.
yeah, I think I was like 16 hours into a 36-hour fast, so it was not intentional. If you have me over again, I will definitely indulge.
I was like, Mal, he didn't eat any of the fucking pulled pork, and my pulled pork is fire. Okay, I was like, come on. I was like, because I knew, like, you should. I was like, but it's meat. Like,
yeah,
vegetarian.
yeah,
Like,
there
so
is.
you're cool with meat.
For sure, 1,000%. I think I tried the carnivore diet for a couple months, and loved doing that. Didn't find it totally sustainable with what I was trying to do, but I think I don't like I said before. I don't think there's a blanket approach to losing weight or a blanket approach to feeling good. I think you have to find what works for you. But if you can naturally find your way towards eating just whole foods and just I'm that guy at Publix where if I'm going to buy something, I look at the ingredient list, and if there's anything on there that I don't know, likely I'm Googling it or I'm just putting it back on the shelf. So
100%. Which is most everything on the shelf.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. And you start learning about all these dyes that they put on our foods and preservatives that they conceal, and even natural flavors. Like, you think, oh, that can't be bad. The things that they put in natural flavors that don't allow them to conceal what the actual ingredient is, that stuff is banned in other countries. Like why are we allowed to buy that today? Oh, because it makes money and it gets people addicted to it, and it creates this funnel into the healthcare system. When they get sick, then they have a patient. It's all connected, man. In my opinion.
It's not an opinion. That's the way it is. It's 100% the way it is. Like, that's the system. The natural flavors though, that's the one where it's like, okay, because we're pretty good. Like, Mal's the dietitian and everything, so now, like, I know a lot about food. I still eat. I don't eat what I used to eat. Like, growing up, and again, I don't think when we were kids it was as bad, because I think it was like the early 80s when tobacco bought big food, and they started, because the tobacco thing was kind of on the decline, that they started to addict us to food instead, and and then those are the same people that own the drug companies, and it's like you said, funnel system into this. But I don't think it was as bad I just don't remember it, because I ate like shit when we were kids. Like, how much McDonald's my mom, your parents throw you McDonald's when we were kids, like,
dude, pizza Lunchables, fruit roll-ups, Gushers, like,
like,
I was just hungry.
How are we alive?
It didn't matter what we ate. We ate Taco Bell. I mean, if my mom ever hears this, she would argue. But like, we had late night practices, and sometimes like the only thing that was open was Taco Bell, and we'd go to Taco Bell. And I think what saved us is at that time the vaccine schedule was 60, and so I had all my vaccines. I'm sure you did too, protecting you from all the. No, man, but it is. I think that's the power of social media, right? I don't think anyone would have access to this information that we have access to today 10 years ago, and now it's become so mainstream. You have to be careful who you follow. And there is always bad actors who are trying to make a quick buck, who claim to be, organic, and all this stuff is like a superfood. And, my unsolicited advice is you gotta do what's best for you, and you gotta make sure you feel good. We don't make it out in the end. Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, of
So you gotta have fun, but
course.
it's about quality for sure.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean, just make easy changes, like if I want like, okay, I love fried chicken and I
yeah,
love cookies. Okay. But what change did I make? Now I fry my own chicken
yeah. There you go.
and I make my own cookies from scratch. And it's butter and a little sugar and flour, and that's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
yeah.
It's
That's it,
not
man.
so it's like it's not gonna kill. It's better than the 50 ingredient cookies, Chips Ahoy, right? So it's like
Yeah,
I don't do it. It's not like I'm sitting there eating cookies every day, but once every couple of weeks, I'll make a batch of cookies. Like it's not a big deal,
not a
you
big deal.
know. But it's definitely better to make as much food as you can. Like do it
For
yourself
sure.
as much as
Yeah,
you can, right?
for sure, for sure. I find myself, Nina and I, we go to the grocery store almost every day. Um,
Yep.
and on a good day, out of, let's say we have 21 meals a week, on a good day we're having, or in a good week we're having 17 home cooked meals. It's a combination of leftovers and what we had for dinner the night before, but
Yeah.
if we can reach that, like, we've had a good week. um yeah, so
No, 100%.
it's a journey, man. You gotta be mindful what you put in your body. It's all connected.
How about the baby food? You guys, that's the pain, man. Is like you gotta cut it all up and puree all that stuff, and
It's painful for sure, but it's worth it.
oh, it's crazy.
Like, I gotta give a lot of credit to my wife, because when she was first pregnant, I was like, I'm cooking all her meals. I'm gonna do it all. Don't worry, you won't have to lift a finger in the kitchen. Like, I was cooking the meals anyway, so it was like, why wouldn't I just make the baby food? And of course, Ray is born, and she started making all the meals. It kind of flip flopped. We definitely have succumbed to, like, the fruit pouches as a alternative for snacks, but the majority of the food that daughter eats is all home cooked meals. And to your point, it's a lot of work, man. But you know, as opposed to the last month and a half, she's been very healthy. We've been very fortunate, so
Yeah,
it makes a difference.
huge difference,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
hopefully it's gonna be a lot easier to eat that way for a lot more people.
yeah,
I think coming
yeah.
up, you know.
She's definitely not going to be the kid at school that people want to trade lunches for. That's for sure.
But look, they don't even want the other stuff really. Like Layla, my daughter, she'll have a cookie, and
Yeah,
she loves cook. Don't get me wrong, she loves cookies, and we have pizza and stuff like that. But
yeah.
like, not Pizza Hut or anything, but
Oh yeah,
pizza.
yeah,
But for the most part, it's stuff that I cook
yeah,
and is mal approved.
yeah. We So it's funny, man. I mean, I'm not an expert. I've definitely, like, made that change in my life, and I have people that have reached out, like, hey, how did you get started, or what did you focus on, and what did you do this? And
Mhm.
I try to send them, to, like, a podcast, or like, just start here, or here's a list of foods that I try to order or get when I go to the grocery store, and just, like, just start making simple meals. There's that. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I know the book. I've never read
Okay,
it.
man, fantastic read. It's an easy read. And it's this idea of building compounding habits in your life and
Mhm.
building systems,
Sure.
not goals. Goals give you success in one day. Systems give you success for life, which, you just
I
shift your
like that.
mindset to that. Yeah, and it kind of, changes the way you view things. And like, to your point, you make one simple adjustment. It's like, okay, I'm still gonna eat cookies, but I'm gonna make my cookies instead of, like, making it this big whole ordeal where you're gonna make every food. It's like, no, I'm just gonna start with making my own cookies. Even that subtle change has a lasting effect on all your other habits. And um, yeah, to any of your listeners who struggle with this, maybe start there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
seriously. Well, that's
yeah,
what Mal always says, it's like everything you're fine as long as it's in moderation. Like if you
yeah,
want a slice of cheesecake, have a little slice of cheesecake. Don't sit down and eat the entire cheesecake every day of the week.
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's a slippery slope, though.
it
Slippery
is.
slope.
It is.
Yeah,
You got to be. Sometimes I'm like, man, I made cookies last week, so I'm not gonna do it this week. Even though
yeah.
I really want one. But it's so being an athlete and that when you go, there's so much a push too. I noticed you said you don't do carbs. Is that still you don't do carbs other than your like cheat
Um,
day? But
No, I mean, we've been in the trenches, the last couple of months. So I've definitely indulged. I do notice a difference in my body and how I feel energy wise when I like, we do or out. We try to like get the highest quality of food, but I mean, you're eating carbs in your fruit. You're eating carbs in your veggies. My goal is always to stay away from grains or rice, pastas, and like, you know, Nina got into the habit of making sourdough, and I mean, it's like 3 ingredients, and I would eat that. And it's delicious. But my rule of thumb for me, what works for me is like, okay, if I can stay away from rice, if I can stay away from pasta, and if I can stay away from not all bread, because I do like the sourdough, but like the bread that you get at the restaurant, I usually find myself being able to perform optimally. I'm not feeling bogged down. I don't need 6 coffees in a day to kind of get going. Like I'm usually in a pretty good state of mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I like bread. I'm not a huge bread person in general. I just don't, whatever. I had a swallowing problem from acid reflux years ago.
Oh,
And
damn.
I went through like, I was sitting there, and the first time it happened, I was eating steak, and I could like literally, my body would not let me swallow the bite. It would not let me. It's like, you're going to choke on this. And I could not. I'm sitting there with my older parents, and I'm like, I had to spit out. I'm like, I can't swallow. I literally cannot swallow this food. And um, I just kind of let it go, and it progressed. And then it was finally like, there was like, I had to either chew it to the point it was liquefied in my mouth, and
Oof.
there could be no chunks of anything, or I was drinking like, nutrient shakes. And I was like, I don't know what like, I can't eat solid food. I
Yeah.
could not eat solid food because the reflux. They found out I had to get a scope. And what they found out, the reflux was so bad that it was like burning my esophagus, and it was just, I guess that was causing it.
Holy cow.
So I got
How
it.
long, how long did you deal with that for?
I mean, till I got the scope, it was like probably 2 weeks
Yeah.
of not being, even then start taking the antacid, and he's like, you got to take this every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, and
Isn't
I'm
that
like,
crazy? You become a
yeah,
customer. You're a customer for life. There's no other
yeah,
alternative.
there
That's
it
it.
is. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay. So I did it for years until like last year, I stopped taking it. It's been a few years, and
Yeah.
it helped. I started being able to eat solid food again a little bit, but I still had to chew it up really well.
Yeah.
But it got better, and I went from two a day to one a day on
Yeah.
the whatever whatever you call it, and the antacid, and then finally, so that's where bread like fell off for me, because it was
Yeah.
such a hard thing to get down. I was like, now I just like, I don't even really like it that much. And but noodle pasta and rice and that, I really do. I like that because I can't do no carbs, man. The metabolism is just so fast. I
Yeah.
tried, like, my buddy's a big carnivore diet guy. And if he's listening to this, like, it's good. And again, whatever work you said, whatever
Yeah.
works for you.
Yeah.
But I was like, I mean, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's meat, and you can eat meat and butter. And we're not making our own bread yet, but I have been making our own butter.
I've
And
seen that, man.
it's
It's
so
so
good.
easy. It's so
It's
easy.
so
We haven't tried it yet. I've been wanting to try that.
Dude, just get the heavy creamer, throw it in the mixer, put some salt, and just let it turn it into
That's
butter.
it,
You're done.
dude. All right, I got to give that a shot.
Yeah, and you take it out and you squeeze out the extra like buttermilk out of it, and then I just put it in the
Yeah.
container and put it in the fridge, and we've got butter. Like,
Yeah, there seems to be a natural progression of the awakening, right? Like you become awakened to all these things, and next thing you know, it's like you start with sourdough bread, and then next thing you have chickens, and then you're homeschooling your kids, and then you just kind of like move away from society altogether.
that's the
So
goal, man, for me
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, same. I,
Um,
I think a lot of us have the same goals. So
yeah, and it's funny how like there's so much civilization now, and it's like everybody just wants to get away from it.
yeah,
It's like, well, we had that before, and
yeah.
now we wanted this, but
In a world where we're all hyper, there's hyper connectivity. It's like everyone just wants to be left alone. It's crazy.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
But dude, honestly, I did one day like where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. Literally one day, I was like, I'm gonna try this carnivore thing out and see how I feel. Just as, but being an athlete and all that, it's always like carb heavy. Like
Yeah.
before you play, like growing up, it was always like, I gotta have my plate of pasta the night before a match. You know,
The Michael Scott approach, man. That's what we grew up on.
right? But but like I don't feel bad when I eat pasta, or if the kids love lasagna that I make, like I don't feel bad. Like, so it just maybe again, person to person thing.
Yeah.
I try to like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Literally one day. I did it one day. Like I didn't have a bun on my burger and I had a double cheeseburger. It was delicious. And
Yeah.
that I made, with grass-fed beef, of course.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and then, but the next day, I literally did a little work, came back in the house, and I had vertigo all day.
Oh man.
It was like the
So
worst.
it's not meant to be.
So Mal got me a giant Jersey Mike sub, and down that didn't help. It was like I had to go to sleep. So it was like I can't do, the metabolism doesn't allow for me to not do some carbs.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, maybe there's a reason why.
Just the
You know?
hyper metabolism is
Yeah.
what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I can't, like, you're talking about gaining weight. I would love to weigh 230.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
I'm
love it.
too. So I usually fluctuate between 195 and 200. I'm at 205 now. That's the heaviest I've been since the last 5 years. Um, and it feels good, but I those goals and those like that whole fitness and aesthetic look, like that's not my goal. I just want to make sure I feel right and I could be present, in what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I'm sure just like you, man, I have a pretty healthy fear of not realizing my full potential, whatever that looks like. And I think that's what kind of keeps most men up at night.
It is.
So, it's so long as I can kind of keep moving towards a direction that I think is like the right direction. That's what I'm most concerned about. So,
Yeah. So what's the right direction? What's next?
if you know the answer, you tell me.
No, I mean, what's next
yeah,
for you guys?
yeah, I don't know. So we just want to grow our family. I want to provide a life for my kids that, and not necessarily like give them what I didn't have, because my parents did an amazing job and gave us sacrificed so much for us. But I want to be able to teach my daughter things that I wasn't able to be taught because I was so focused on one specific thing. And so like I've kind of thrown myself into all these different hobbies that I don't really know anything about, but thankfully, like, life has presented opportunities to meet people that know a lot about them. And so I become like, their little shadow. And so like I want to be able to hunt and teach my daughter how to hunt one day, or at least look for a spouse that hunts and is able to provide, or I want to be able to protect my daughter. So, I was doing jujitsu, when she was first born, getting folded like a lawn chair pretty much every morning, just so I could tell her like, hey, this is what you should be doing. But like what's next for me personally, I've dedicated my whole life to baseball, and it's hard to imagine not being some sort of athlete. And so, goals or systems that I've tried to put into my life is where I could be a lifelong athlete and always, naturally, when I got done playing baseball, Nina played beach volleyball. I just threw myself and started playing beach volleyball. Pickleball is a new craze. Snowboarding was a thing. So my goal is to, I think someone said it before, and so I'm copying this. It's being a centenarian athlete, and being able to be 100 years old and being able to walk, squat, move, and not being dependent on the system. That's kind of where my mind is shifting to now. So
okay,
we'll see.
So being healthy, doing what you can.
Yeah, having fun, man. Having fun. Yeah,
having fun. Beyond that, like, okay, more specifically, so what are these hobbies? What are you doing now? What is it? What are these hobbies?
So right now, they've been kind of stunted just because we've been going through it with our daughter, just trying to figure her out. But I do plan to pick up jujitsu back, hopefully in the next week.
It's so great.
Yeah. Obviously pickleball, I've been playing that for about 1.5 years now, and I know it's almost laughable for you because how at the level you played at with 10, it'd be the equivalent of me playing softball.
Right.
It can be painful at times, but just I bought a bow. I'm on the Joe Rogan starter kit, so bought a bow. I've been shooting that. I've gone hunting twice with it. I've been unsuccessful twice, but kind of the thrill of it is kind of, it keeps me going. So, personally, those are the hobbies that I'm after right now. But I do need to get back to reading. I did a really good job I never read in college or in school. And oddly enough, when I graduated and I had no like teacher, I started reading myself, and that's kind of what's birthed this awakening leading up to Trump's election. uh, but yeah, I definitely want to read a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, pretty boring stuff, Aaron. Honestly,
It's
if
not
you got any
boring,
good
man.
ideas,
Hunting's
I'm all
great.
ears, man. Yeah,
Hunting's great. Jiu-jitsu's great. I
yeah,
haven't done as much jiu-jitsu. I just, my experience with martial arts was just like Marine Corps martial arts, which there's some jiu-jitsu in there. It's a
yeah.
mixture of a lot of stuff, but mostly just ends with heel to temple. That's the joke. But yeah, no, hunting is, I feel like it's making a more, as we said, like people want to move away from civilization and get back to things, and they're awakening and
Yeah,
realizing health. And I feel like it's going to make a comeback. We used to go when I was younger, but I've definitely been like thinking about, we got to go. So I'll go with you sometime. Let me know, man.
that'd be great, man. Yeah,
Hunting's
it's
fun. It's a great time.
this idea that we've just gotten so accustomed to outsourcing, like I said earlier, our health, our food, out of convenience, because
Right.
it's so easily accessible. And if anything, I've been thinking more of the end times when there is some sort of network outage and people can't
Yeah.
go to the grocery store and get what they need. Well, what do you do then? So that's been the underlying motivation, is like,
You kill
well,
animals.
yeah, what can I do to survive for at least a month? And it goes back to all the stuff that we just have forgotten about, you know, throughout our evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
We've just gone away from it more and more. So
I feel like it's a pretty
getting back to that.
natural, innate behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we just, like you said, is just kind of suppressed because of convenience. But
Yeah.
I think
It's
it's
crazy.
there for everybody if they want it to be. And
Yeah.
yeah, hunting's fun too, man. I just love being in the woods. Being in the woods. Once you've been out in the woods and you're like out there and you come back, like you want to go back. You're like, I prefer it there. It's never the
Yeah.
other way around. It's never
Yeah.
like, it's always like, I want to be in the woods.
It's no cell service, man. Like no one can reach you. It's the best feeling.
It's so good. Anyway, Justin, is there anywhere anybody can get in touch with you if they're interested in diet, or you got a social media handle, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, man. I mean, probably Instagram is probably the easiest way. Can't promise I'll have any answer, but I always try to point you in the right direction. That's kind of helped me along the way. So my handle is just the first four letters of my first name. So just, and then Gonzalez, Gonzalez. So at Just Gonzalez at Instagram.com, .org, whatever it is.
One
Yeah.
of the rare people not trying to sell you anything, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, man, I really appreciate your time being here. Great conversation as always, and we'll have to get you on again. And let's do the hunting thing for real, though. I miss going out there. It's been a long time,
So
but
that'd be awesome, man.
definitely been wanting to get back into it recently too. So
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds like a good time.
yeah, and you guys can come visit sometime too if you want. We're not far.
Yeah, yeah, we've been talking about that. So if you ever have me back on the show, we'll do this live in person instead of at Starbucks on a Zoom.
I love that. I love
All
that.
right.
All right, man. Hey, have a great rest of your day, and thanks for coming on. Everybody, thank you for listening. Watch, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. The Extra Rvrb shop is live. Go get your gear. We've got all kinds of limited merchandise. It's not just custom shirts that I make and things that I like and have interest in. Really cool, great quality. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right, brother. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.